UFC 291. These are the full card predictions and the betting breakdown. Main event, Dustin Poirier rematches Justin Gaethje for the BMF title. Really looking forward to this card and talking about each of the matchups on it. So make sure you guys smash that like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Turn the post notifications on and make sure to share the video as well. And also note, I'll be live for the entire UFC 291 fight card. Fight companion going down at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So make sure you guys tune into that. And let's get into the fights here. First fight of the night, it's Matthew Semelsberger versus Uros Medic. I like Matthew Semelsberger to win this fight here. Note that Uros Medic is coming into this fight on short notice. He's also been out for over a year. He actually had surgery on his left hand, and now he's coming back fighting Semelsberger, who, even though he lost to Jeremiah Wells in that fight, his stand-up game looked pretty nasty. And I always feel like Semelsberger is a guy that gets underestimated and slept on and then goes out and performs greatly. I mean, he has a win over Jake Matthews recently. He's got a couple of losses, 5 losses as a pro, few losses in the UFC. But he fights pretty quality opposition and is always dog tough. If you dig on the side of Uros Medic, it was a nice knockout against Omar Morales, that being at lightweight a year ago. Before that, though, Jalen Turner broke him. And I feel as though Matthew Semelsberger, now up a weight class at 170 pounds, is going to be bigger and stronger than a Uros Medic. And I think he'll TKO him as well. I'm going Semelsberger by TKO in the second or third round. This isn't the first time Medic has fought at welterweight. Actually, outside of the UFC, he was exclusively a welterweight and actually once even a middleweight in his pro debut. So he has been in there against big opposition, but nobody to the caliber of Semelsberger. And I really like Semelsberger's pressure. I like the straight punches and just the dog toughness that he brings. I would say that Medic is a more slick kickboxer fighting out of the southpaw stance. He really does have nasty body kicks here, but I think that Semelsberger is going to be moving forward on him, crowding the kicker, finding shots of his own, and wearing on a Uros Medic. Note that Medic has never been distanced as a pro, and I do think he'll get stopped in the second or third round here. So I'm going Semelsberger by TKO. As far as the betting lines for this fight, Semelsberger is a minus 180 favorite with Uros Medic plus 155 as the dog. Medic is a really talented guy and slick, but I like him better at 55, and Semelsberger has more dog in him, and it's going to show in this matchup here. So give me Semelsberger for the TKO. Second fight of the night, it's Miranda Maverick versus Priscilla Cachoeira. I'm going to be picking Miranda Maverick to win this fight here. I know that she's coming off of a disappointing loss to Jasmine Jasudavicius, but come on, the level difference of Cachoeira and Jasudavicius is, a bit, right? Jasudavicius now, I believe, 15th ranked at flyweight and is super well-rounded, whereas Priscilla Cachoeira is a dog-tough, brawling style of striker who throws really heavy punches. Miranda Maverick still has a pretty well-versed MMA game. Her kickboxing and then mixing in her takedowns and top control is really how I see her winning this fight here. I got to go with Miranda Maverick for a unanimous decision. I feel like Cachoeira's got a puncher's chance, but it's a low likelihood puncher's chance. Miranda Maverick is not showing, bad punch resistance. She doesn't have the glass chin, and I think that she's going to get a hold of Cachoeira and control her. Now, some relative concerns, though, on the side of Miranda Maverick would be in a fight, again, she's undersized, 5'3" to 5'7", though she's got a half-inch reach advantage, and her opponent doesn't have the high-level ground skills that make me overly concerned. So I do think that Maverick wins, but I'll tell you, these lines are just stupid. At minus 350, Miranda Maverick, I would stay away from that betting line. Cachoeira plus 285. She's definitely got a puncher's chance. Maverick wins the fight, but she's way too wide of a favorite. Obviously, it's because it's a favorable matchup for her, taking on Cachoeira, where there's an obvious gap in the ground games. I just think that minus 350 is a tag, for real top level and like clear mismatches, yeah, I think Maverick has the advantage. I could say 2-1 is a more fair line here, but it's all the way up at minus 350, and it opened up at minus 500. I don't think that Miranda Maverick is a true 5-1 favorite. She wins the fight, but not an easy matchup against Cachoeira. I'll pick Maverick by a judge's decision. I'll say unanimous decision too. Next fight on the card is Jake Matthews versus Darrius Flowers. I like Darrius Flowers' style, man. Appreciate him stepping up on real short notice to take on Matthews. I'm picking Jake Matthews to win. It's hard to go against a guy who's been in the UFC for so long and is only 28. He's got good kickboxing, pretty fast hands. I mean, you look at the past couple of fights, it was a loss to Semelsberger. But, you know, Semelsberger fighting earlier in the night, he's a dog, man. He's a tough savage, and that's a hard matchup. Knocked out Fiallo, that was impressive. Sean Brady beats him, no shame in that. Obviously, he beats a Diego Sanchez. Emil Weber-Meek, actually, the time that he beat him was kind of hyped up. A well-rounded guy in Jake Matthews. He can grapple too. Darrius Flowers, though, is a heavy-handed puncher with a very strong wrestling base. He just has not been inside of that UFC octagon, and then now in a non-optimal spot, debuting on short notice against a guy with a lot of fights inside of the UFC. I like Darrius Flowers, man. I think he's a quality prospect, and I mean, you look, he's got some decent wins, but I feel like Jake Matthews is too slick. And Flowers' wrestling won't really be able to be super effective with Matthews' movement now, especially in the larger octagon. We're not at the apex, so that does, in my opinion, favor more the striking style. Matthews, I think, is going to be touching up a Darrius Flowers. Flowers will look to throw heavy, and I do believe frustration will set in. And I feel as Matthews' TKO possible in the second or third round. I'm not saying it's a lock that he's knocking him out. I think Jake Matthews is going to win. I think there's a real chance that he gets a TKO here. If he won on the judges' scorecards, though, I would not be shocked. But Flowers coming in on real short notice here, hasn't fought in 10 months. I think that he's going to lose this fight. So I'm going Jake Matthews. I think he will get a TKO over a tough guy in Flowers, who's a wide dog. Plus 250 for Flowers. Matthews at minus 300 is the favorite. I mean, the amount of UFC experience, I understand why Matthews is going to be sitting at a 3-1 line here. I think that Flowers is good enough to be in the UFC and a tough, opponent, but he's taking a fight under bad circumstance, and I just feel as though the lack of the high-level experience and Jake Matthews' slickness overall, he's a competent fighter and pretty quality, and I think he's going to get the win. I'm going Jake Matthews, the Celtic kid, for the W. Next fight, we got CJ Vergara versus Vinicius Salvador. I'm going to pick CJ Vergara here. He's notably, has more dog inside of him. Now, it's not that his opponent, doesn't have any dog in him. And I use that term dog in him a lot, but fighters that can dig really deep when they're exhausted are guys that, I get excited about picking or potentially betting on. CJ Vergara is a guy that doesn't quit. He can take a lot of damage and come back from it. He showed that against Daniel Lacerda the last time. And even in loss to Ode Osborne a while ago now, you can look there. He lost it on the judges' scorecards. He was doing very well in that third round, and he won the third round. So he's got a proven gas tank to go long with good recovery and durability. He also has pretty clean boxing. On the opposite side of him, Salvador is a dangerous southpaw, but I would call him a guy that's more of a power striker who will throw wide as opposed to somebody looking to set up the strikes, whereas Vergara will throw more straight punches down the line. He also has okay takedowns as well. I wouldn't call him a great wrestler, but he's, not awful there, especially when his opponents start to fatigue. And Salvador, a guy that throws a little wide, maybe a little bit more fat on his punches, and everything's coming in heavy. I think that Vinicius Salvador is going to end up on his back here. Now, Vergara, by decision, is going to be the official prediction, man. I think that's what's going to happen with Salvador. Throwing wide, he will get caught at times, but his chin will hold him in it, and the fact that Vergara isn't a very heavy-handed guy. When I think of CJ Vergara, I don't think of big knockout power. I think of volume, and as I said, great gas tank and really good, durability / recovery. So I think that Salvador loses here. I like that Salvador taunts a little bit. They say like Anderson Silva-like in the broadcast, and I can kind of see it, but he needs to start putting the wins together instead of being too focused on the taunts here. I think Vergara, though, gives him his second loss in the UFC. I like CJ Vergara to win. Minus 155 for Vergara. So he's not a wide favorite. The line opened up. He's around minus 175. So looking like a close money favorite probably throughout the week. Some dog money on Salvador is plus 135. But he hasn't shown me the technical skills to win. Yeah, he's got the raw power, and anybody can land a huge overhand and end up getting a knockout. But Vergara's chin is very good. And I don't think that Salvador is going to be able to find those moments looping these big, wide strikes that he likes to throw when Vergara is going tighter and straighter. He's got a good high guard. I like CJ Vergara. I'm going to say unanimous decision for Vergara in this fun flyweight fight. Next fight on the card in the middleweight division is Roman Kopylov versus Claudio Ribeiro. I'm going to pick Roman Kopylov. I think he's the more technical fighter than Ribeiro. At this point, we've kind of learned that Ribeiro is a powerhouse for sure. And he's coming off a win over Joseph Holmes where he actually shown some ground skills. But overall, Ribeiro is more of a wide, wildish pressure striker who's looking to throw pretty much 100% of himself into all of his strikes, where on the other side, Kopylov is a southpaw kickboxer who's more poised and technical. I think that he'll find strikes down the center, where Ribeiro is going to look to go wide. Though Ribeiro has a 2-inch reach advantage, I don't think he's great at using that reach advantage. I expect Kopylov with straights down the line, specifically a nice jab to be working for him. Don't be surprised if Kopylov is actually able to find himself on top of Ribeiro. And I do think that Kopylov is going to win by TKO or knockout. I'm going to go Kopylov to get the stoppage here. I can see him hurting Ribeiro in the second or third, following up with ground and pound, getting him out of there. So I do like a Kopylov winner side. Now, betting line, he is the favorite at minus 225. Ribeiro the plus 190 underdog. Ribeiro hits very hard, but it's going to be difficult to land real clean and effective punches on a poised and technical guy like Kopylov. I think Kopylov outstrikes him. And also, I'm telling you, I think he also will have a wrestling advantage and potentially ends up on top doing a bit of work. I think we're going to go Kopylov knockout in this fight, or TKO. Next fight is Trevin Giles versus Gabriel Bonfim. Now note that Ismael Bonfim, the brother of Gabriel Bonfim, lost to Benoit Saint Denis after, and I had picked Bonfim to win. And you can go on Benoit Saint Denis' Twitter, and I'm in the montage of him like proving the haters wrong. So I thought that was pretty sick that I got featured in that. Now this Bonfim brother is a dangerous one and a more well-rounded Bonfim. I'm picking Gabriel Bonfim to beat Trevin Giles, though Trevin Giles is very experienced. He decided now to drop to 170. Doesn't have big knockout power, so I don't think he's going to have an easy time keeping Bonfim off of him. And now he's also not a high-tier wrestler. He has okay takedowns, and he's athletic and fast, but I think that Bonfim's grappling is very competent, and he has submission skills. There's a lot of submission wins for Bonfim, and I think, we know him for the knockout power. Both brothers, you think of knockouts when you think of the Bonfim brothers, but Gabriel Bonfim has won the majority of his recent fights by submission. You can see 4 out of his last 5 wins he has won by strangling his opponents. That is a valuable asset to bring into a fight with a pretty well-rounded fighter like Trevin Giles. Now, Bonfim is a big favorite, so the lines, people are like, yeah, Bonfim for sure. But, he's 25 years of age. He's still a developing guy. And even though he's a 3-1 favorite, he's taking on a guy with a win over Roman Dolidze and Trevin Giles, an experienced veteran in the UFC. So I don't think this is a, walk in the park type of matchup. But I do think Bonfim is going to show the savviness beyond his years. At only 25, I think he's going to be quite poised in there. I believe that he's going to use pretty good straight shots to set up big power strikes. Giles, I think, is going to end up spam shooting takedowns and getting himself caught in a submission. So I'm going to go Bonfim by sub. I think Giles gets hurt on the feet and then is forced to wrestle. Don't be shocked if Bonfim does decide to put Giles on his back and showcase the wrinkles in his wrestling as well. But I do think he has the stand-up advantage. I think that Giles is a good athlete with decent enough hands, and he does work a solid jab. But Bonfim is going to hit with much much more thud, and I do think he's more precise as well. And then knowing that he has some submission skills too, I just don't think Giles threatens Bonfim significantly enough so anywhere. So you got to go win for Bonfim. I think that he's going to be, being Giles, unable to keep Bonfim off of him. He's going to be forced to try to wrestle, and I think Bonfim probably strangles him. Won't be crazy if Bonfim TKO'd him or knocked him out on the feet either. But I'm feeling, though, submission, because that's the streak we're riding. We'll ride the submission streak for Bonfim. I think he strangles Trevin Giles. Minus 320 for Bonfim. He is a wide favorite to plus 270 Trevin Giles. You know, I just feel like the odds crazy wide. Minus 200 at open makes a lot of sense to me, but it's spread because a lot of people will definitely be all over Bonfim. Even though this is the younger Bonfim brother, he is more well-rounded and just seems to have kind of more like, it's like a veteran style. I really believe that he's going to look good here and impress a lot of people. So I'm going Gabriel Bonfim by submission over Trevin Giles. Next fight on the card is a heavyweight banger of a featured prelim. We have Derrick the Black Beast Lewis taking on Marcos Rogério de Lima. Holy shit, I'm sitting at this one and I'm like, wow. It's wild to see how far Derrick Lewis has fallen from grace. At one point, he's fighting for the interim belt. He's at the top, and, you know, maybe if he got a win, he could have fought Francis Ngannou at some point. And then Tai Tuivasa beats him, Sergey Pavlovich beats him, and Sergey Spivak beats him. So 3 losses in a row, but ultimately those 3 losses in a row are against the upper echelon of the weight class. I am going to go on a whim here, and I'm going to ride Derrick Lewis for the knockout. I don't think that Marcos Rogério de Lima is to the caliber of these other opponents that Derrick Lewis has faced. And, you know, I believe Lewis has slowed down a bit, but he still carries incredible knockout power. And it's not like he's a fish out of water in grappling. He's not technical with his jiu-jitsu at all, but he uses crazy strength that he's going to have here over a big and strong guy like de Lima, who, though, is not like this absolute bully and menace on top of opponents. If you look at De Lima's last fight, he fought Waldo Cortez Acosta. He was ripping him with low kicks. There's not, I think, enough power for a De Lima in this fight to keep a Derrick Lewis off of him. So he's going to have to look to wrestle. I think he is going to be met with very strong takedown resistance by a guy as large as Derrick Lewis. Now, I know Derrick Lewis is on a rough few, and I also know that Marcos Rogério de Lima has not been knocked out in the UFC. He's notably had a pretty good chin. But Derrick Lewis is the UFC knockout king. One of the heaviest handed, if not heaviest handed guys to fight across all combat sports ever. And De Lima on the feet is powerful, but he has more of a tight and more, rather than tight, more of a wider Muay Thai plodding striking style. Derrick Lewis can find home to the kill shot. I'm going to say Derrick Lewis wins by knockout here. I'm riding Derrick Lewis. And this could be the last fight for D-Lew too, but I'm taking him by KO. I think he's going to find the kill shot punch over Marcos Rogério de Lima and turn back the clock for this one. Now, I don't think he retires after, because if he gets a win here, I mean, somehow he'll be back up in the mix. But for Derrick Lewis, he could go out after this one and say, listen, that's it for me. I had a great run, and I just knocked De Lima out, who's surging right now. You know, a nice little roll, 2 wins in a row for De Lima. And then you look at the loss, he lost to Blagoy Ivanov. No, Derrick Lewis at one point beat Blagoy Ivanov. MMA math doesn't really matter. Yeah, there's decent wins for De Lima in his last 4, but 4 guys that I think Derrick Lewis could probably also knock out. So I think Derrick Lewis by KO is very live here, and I don't want to be swayed away from the Derrick Lewis knockout just because De Lima's never been KO'd in the past. He's never fought Derrick Lewis before. And seeing Derrick Lewis is a plus 150 underdog. He opened up at even money, minus 115. De Lima around minus 175. The lines are kind of shifting, but it's ranging from plus 140 to plus 155. Derrick Lewis is a dog here. I'm going to predict that he gets a KO. De Lima on the other side around minus 170, 75 is the favorite. You know, noting the durability of De Lima, it's something maybe to consider, because Derrick Lewis has won decisions before. I mean, it wouldn't be out of this world that Derrick Lewis was able to go long with the De Lima, fight off his grappling, land some big shots, and get a decision. But I think he's live for KO in all 3 rounds. It's going to be very dependent upon what Lima decides to employ is the game plan. He's going to go for a leg kick heavy attack, which I do think can get him countered on the feet, or is he going to try to smother Derrick Lewis and then be surprised at the absolute difficulty to hold this man and really control him? Derrick Lewis, even though he got bullied by Sergey Spivak last time, that is a different level of grappler than Lima. So I'm going Derrick Lewis to knock Lima out. Featured prelim, upset, and an underdog pick. Let's jump to the main card. If you guys haven't yet, make sure you smash that like button. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe. It's Stephen Wonderboy Thompson versus Michel Pereira. I'm picking Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Yeah, he's 40 years of age, but to me, he's clearly the better technical kickboxer. He's great from range, and he's also very good at closing the gap. You know, Michel Pereira is one of those like athletic, unorthodox powerhouses, and he does hit pretty hard, though Pereira is not very often finding the finish as of late. I mean, he got a submission, nearly 3 years ago, but his last 4 fights he's won by decision. Did have a very competitive one last time out with Santiago Ponzinibbio, and I just think Wonderboy's striking is going to be on another level here. Pereira's going to have a hard time then to adjust and turn into a grappling style for this fight. Wonderboy was very difficult for Gilbert Burns, one of the best grapplers in the UFC, to control and hold on the ground. I don't think Michel Pereira has that type of success. I think Wonderboy's touching him up from distance. Pereira's chin is going to keep him in it, and there's going to be moments where he's throwing huge shots and he's trying to bang and brawl. Wonderboy just beat Kevin Holland in a pretty good back and forth. Note that Kevin Holland has way longer reach than Michel Pereira, 81 inches. So if you're like, yo, Kevin Holland was punching him in the face, though, yeah, Kevin Holland's arms are crazy long. It's a lot easier for him to reach him. For Pereira on the other side, he's going to have to get past the kicks, and Wonderboy has the length advantage with the arms. That's a very positive factor. I expect Wonderboy to put on a bit of a striking showcase, and I think 30-27 for Wonderboy over Michel Pereira in this fight here. Now, looking at the odds, Wonderboy is -164 as the favorite. Michel Pereira +144 as the dog. I agree with those lines. I think Wonderboy wins here. When you put him in the favorable matchups against guys who like to strike, he shines so much. I mean, look, win over Jeff Neal, Vicente Luque, last time out Holland, and then you look at the 2 losses, dangerous grapplers. Michel Pereira does not have the well-rounded game to threaten Wonderboy outside of just striking, so I do believe Wonderboy is going to pick him apart. We're going Wonderboy, Stephen Thompson for the win. 40 years of age means nothing for this guy because he still can move like he's 29. Next fight on the card, another battle in the welterweight division. It's Michael Chiesa. Michael Chiesa versus Kevin Holland. Guys, some of you going to hate this. Some of you going to love it. I got to pick Chiesa. I don't want to pick Chiesa here, but I have to because Kevin Holland is literally taken down in the vast majority of his fights. The only fight he's landing more takedowns than his opponent as of recent is with Wonderboy. Every other fight, even at welterweight, he's taken down, man. Every single time he's getting taken down. And Michael Chiesa, man, I don't know why I got to put a little accent on him, man. I'm feeling the accent, man. It kind of sounds cooler. But the Maverick, Michael Chiesa, I believe has a clear-cut wrestling and overall grappling advantage. This is a guy that dominated Rafael Dos Anjos on the ground, being Chiesa. Now, note, yes, it was a while ago, right? 3.5 years ago. But he's got some quality wins. I mean, the past 2 really as far as wins go. Lost to Luque, but he had good moments and positions. Lost to Sean Brady, but he gave a damn gutsy and tough effort. And Brady is an A1 type of grappler, a guy that's very well versed on the ground. Kevin Holland has length for sure. So on the stand-up, Kevin Holland is slicker and more powerful than Michael Chiesa. But Chiesa is going to be using his long, kind of wide and rangy stance to close that gap, get a hold of Holland. I know Chiesa is a guy with a pretty, solid mental side, right? A good maybe fight IQ. I mean, he's covering the UFC for the company. He's watching fights all the time. He thinks about fighting constantly. I know Chiesa has seen Kevin Holland's past 5 fights. And, the past 5 fights have been while Chiesa's on the sidelines working for the UFC. He knows where the hole is. And I believe Chiesa has the style to capitalize on that. I see control. I see Chiesa grinding towards a John Fitch style, potentially, for the OG's decision. outfitching him. I'm going Michael Chiesa by a unanimous decision. I think he's going to beat Kevin Holland here because he's going to have him backed up against the cage, taken down, and controlled a bit. Now, there's going to be a lot of octagon to use here, so that can give Holland some moments in the striking. But, you know, I just don't feel as though Kevin Holland's wrestling is showing much improvement at this point. We've kind of seen the level that it's at, and guys with solid takedowns will find them. And we know Chiesa also has a solid top game, so I do believe that's going to be on display. Give me Chiesa for the win, and I'll take him on the judges' scorecards. He is an underdog, plus 131 for Chiesa to Kevin Holland at minus 151. I'm going with the side of Chiesa for the win. I'm going with the more grappling style over the rangy and fun striking. They're throwing Kevin Holland a tricky matchup here against, a tough vet like Chiesa. We're going Chiesa to win it. I think controls on the ground and gets it done on the scorecards. Michael Chiesa. Next fight on the card, we got Tony Ferguson versus Bobby Green. You got to pick Bobby Green here. I mean, Tony Ferguson has evidently slowed down. He's lost 5 fights in a row. And against Nate Diaz last time, it was clear that he does not have the same mobility or any bit of speed on his feet that he had in his prime. Now, obviously, he's still a dangerous guy. He was able to land, a pretty good strike on Michael Chandler and drop him. But then he got beaten up by Nate Diaz, and he looked kind of slow out there. I think that Bobby Green's got a clear-cut striking speed advantage. I don't think Tony Ferguson has even the explosiveness to use the wrestling and really wear on a Bobby Green in a more grappling-oriented game plan. I think Bobby Green's going to be staying away from him. He's going to have a lot of space in which to work. Tony Ferguson's too slowed down, and I think we're going to see Bobby Green box his face off. So then the question in play comes, does Tony Ferguson go the distance? The durability has always been there. He can take bombs. I mean, if you look, even with Gaethje, he's taken everything. Now it's 3 years ago. Arm nearly snapped off with Oliveira, dominated by Darrius, brutally KO'd by Chandler, and then submitted by Nate Diaz. Bobby Green is a guy who, you see a TKO not that long ago against Ali Aquinta, beat Nazareth Hakparast on the cards. Normally, Bobby Green is beating guys up, but still winning them on the scorecard. So I'm going to go with what we see normally from Bobby Green, outstriking Tony Ferguson, avoiding the grappling, definitely hitting him with some big shots, but that Tony Ferguson chin is going to keep him alive for the 3 rounds. And I think this is the farewell fight for T. Ferg, and unfortunately, I don't think there's a high likelihood of it going well for him here. I think that ultimately he's going to be beaten up on the feet. So give me Bobby Green for the win. As far as the odds, Green's a huge favorite. Minus 350, and that's because the books believe that Tony Ferguson is well past his prime, and I believe the exact same thing. So makes sense Green is this wide of a favorite. Unfortunate, man, because T. Ferg had a hell of a fucking ride. Plus 285 for Tony Ferguson. I'm going Bobby Green for the win. He outstrikes him, and he gets it done. But Ferguson's toughness will keep him alive in it, but still loses the fight. Co-main event of the evening, Jan Błachowicz versus Alex Pereira. I love this fight. And the winner is probably fighting for the light heavyweight title. I am going to predict that Alex Pereira knocks out Jan Błachowicz in the 2nd round. Now, I'm going to do a little bit of a deeper dive prediction video on the channel this week, so keep your eyes peeled out for that. But man, I'm telling you this, I believe that Pereira finds a left hook and knocks out Błachowicz. Błachowicz has incredible kicks for sure, but he is there to be hit. Yeah, he was able to take down and, garner some control time in his victory over Israel Adesanya, but note that he is not a, grappler first. Błachowicz is a striker. Alex Pereira is also constantly improving as a pro and evolving his ground game. I know he's working a shit ton with Glover Teixeira and, all those guys. There's even footage of him training with Dylan Dennis to really get better on the ground, to really improve the grappling. I do believe that Pereira is better defensively on the ground than we probably give him credit for. Right? Doesn't mean that he couldn't be taken down by Błachowicz, but can Błachowicz pass the guard, smash him, and finish him? I'm going to say no. I think that Błachowicz, with the forte of striking, yes, it's very high level. His kicks are off the charts, and he does have power in his punches. If he gets caught by Alex Pereira, I can see him hurt badly here. I see Pereira finding the left hook. He's got monstrous stand-up, and if you look at that Israel Adesanya fight last time out, I think up until the dynamite punch that Israel Adesanya landed, Alex Pereira was looking better than he had in any of his previous UFC fights. And now he's going up a weight class. He doesn't have the weight cut. I guarantee you he takes a bigger punch because Alex Pereira is huge at middleweight. He's still going to be huge at light heavyweight. He has the natural size and height of a guy that would fight at 265. Now, somehow he's slim and slender, but that just allows him to generate way more power. His knockout power is off the charts. And I'm telling you, at 205, he's going to shock a lot of people. He's knocking Błachowicz out in the second round. I can see a competitive first round. I can see Błachowicz looking to wrestle a bit in the first, but unable to garner much damage. Maybe a bit of control time, but not a ton of damage. And then Alex Pereira laying the bomb on him. Left hook. I'm going knockout win. Second round, Alex Pereira. Note that Pereira's coach is Glover Teixeira, who has a win over Jan Błachowicz, and I do believe that will aid into their preparation for this fight here. And I think Pereira's fighting Yuri Prochazka in one of the most violent fights of all time, maybe at the end of the year or the start of 2024. I'm stoked for it. I'm going underdog. I'm going Alex Pereira. He's plus 100 as the dog. Błachowicz, the minus 120 favorite. His last fight out for Jan, it was a draw for the vacant belt against Ankalaev. And now he's in a number one contender fight against Pereira. A win here sets up title shot for either one of these two. I do believe, though, it's going to be Alex Pereira fighting for that light heavyweight belt. Give me Poatan for the KO. And let's get to the main event of the evening. If you guys haven't yet, make sure you smash that like button. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe. It's Dustin Poirier versus Justin Gaethje 2. The rematch going down for the BMF belt. I love it. I'm happy the BMF belt is back. I know people say it's gimmicky and whatnot, but for dog fights, guys that just go to war, I think it's a fun belt to put on the line, and it adds a lot of excitement to the UFC. So count me in as a thumbs up for the BMF title. I'm picking Dustin Poirier to beat him again. When I went back and rewatched that first fight, Dustin Poirier has a clear boxing advantage in the pocket and was touching up Justin Gaethje. Now, at the time of the stoppage, which was a fourth round TKO for Dustin Poirier, it was 2-1 favoring Poirier. He had won the first and second, and then he lost the third. But significant eye poke that caused a cut over Poirier's eye. There was actually two eye pokes, one earlier in the fight and one in the third round that actually got a point deducted from Gaethje. So it's a, fight that Poirier was still up even heading into the third round. And that round 3 being probably the best round for Gaethje, Poirier was still landing shots there and he was in the matchup. He was getting chopped up with some low kicks for sure throughout the fight. Justin Gaethje's calf kicks are off the charts. And if you look at Dustin Poirier after that fight, he adopted a vicious calf kick himself that he used to really fuck up Conor McGregor when they fought twice. And I feel like Dustin Poirier in this matchup here is going to get another knockout of Justin Gaethje. Now, Gaethje has also improved, but I think in the pocket, the boxing difference is still the same as before. Dustin Poirier can land more combinations, and I think he has more power in this matchup. I don't know. It's not like it's a one-shot knockout, but it's perfect combos, multi-shots, big punches, making Gaethje bang with them. And I think that Gaethje's a guy, who's also taken a fair amount of damage in his fights. He got dropped badly in his loss to Charles Oliveira. I think that Poirier has the stopping power to put his lights out again. This time, I'm thinking it's a little bit earlier. I'm going knockout in round 3 for Dustin Poirier. Their first fight was the fight of the year. I think there's a real chance that this fight for the BMF is another fight of the year. They're both going to bring fire. We know what we get from Gaethje, and that's warfare. It's constant pressure. It's big shots, but a little bit more technical these days. But when he's fighting a Dustin Poirier, I know for a fact Gaethje doesn't just want to win a decision. He wants to get the knockout back on him. And because that reason, they're going to clash in the center, and Poirier is going to find the kill shot. Watch for that Poirier straight left. It was effective last time. It was the big punch that really took Gaethje out of the fight, and I think it could be another factor here. It's crazy, though, when you hadn't seen the fight in a while, you go back and you're like, damn, those eye pokes were serious. It fucked up Dustin Poirier's eye. He was still able to get the knockout. He turned that dog on in round 4 and stopped him there. I think that Dustin Poirier is getting another knockout, but yeah, I'm saying it's a little bit earlier this time. Dustin Poirier to beat Justin Gaethje. Both guys coming off wins. For Poirier, it's the W over Michael Chandler. For Gaethje, it's the W over Rafael Fiziev, who was supposed to be, a dangerous guy in the come-up and still is a dangerous guy in the come-up at lightweight. and BMF belts on the line, I'm saying Dustin Poirier is going to get it. Now, as far as the lines, Poirier is a slight favorite at -140. Gaethje, the +120 underdog. I'm going Dustin Poirier to win. I don't think Gaethje has the boxing chops to put the lights out of a Poirier, but I know the opposite to be true, and that is Poirier has the boxing chops to put out the likes of Justin Gaethje. And when an adapted game, now Poirier adding the calf kicks to his, repertoire and being, cognizant of the calf kicks that are going to be coming at him, I expect Poirier to look pretty damn good out here. Good fight. Gaethje has moments, but Poirier gets the biggest moment. He gets the knockout. 3rd round KO. UFC 291 is bringing heat. And obviously, I'm bringing the heat too. Content every day of the week. I'll do also a more in-depth main event prediction video, so keep your eyes peeled for that. I'll do it for the main and co-main event. I'm doing money line this week. I got live streams throughout the week. This week's Best of MMA Bets, the weigh-in recap show on Friday, and then full card fight companion on Saturday, followed by the full UFC 291 recap show. So plenty of content. Make sure you're subscribed if you haven't, and also make sure to turn on those post notifications too so you don't miss a video. Smash the likes here. Much love to everybody watching. Definitely let me know some of your favorite predictions in the comments. Do you agree with my main and co-main event take, or are you thinking I'm crazy? You're on the opposite sides of both. Let me know. And if you got nothing to say in those comments, but you just enjoy my content, drop a W in the chat as always. Much love, people, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace, guys.